How's it going, everyone? Nick Salzman here with Penn Metrics. Want to come to you guys today to talk a little bit about the latest book that I came out with called The Jinn. This is something that this is a culmination of about 12 to 15 years of extensive work doing spirit release therapy. And so there's a lot of things that I've learned along the way, particularly from failing many times doing other things. So what I'm about to present to you is something that I believe can help a lot. It's something that can help take away some of the fear of the unknown and be able to allow us to really step into our true power. Okay. So the Jinn has got a lot of names. Jinn, basically what they are is some sort of like a nature spirit or a non-human entity. They're pretty similar to angels, except for they're on the other side of the light spectrum of angels. I think there's a chapter in this book called Jinn Physics, I think, that's going to appeal to a lot of science-oriented people, just because it talks a little bit about how angels and jinn, their bodies are made of light, particularly ultraviolet light, which is invisible to the naked eye. Now, the difference with that being angels have more of the yellow, blue, and white spectrums of light that are really good to like help plants grow, I guess you could say. Some of you guys that might have some sort of indoor garden at home might be familiar with this, where we use a metal highlight lamp, something that operates with that bluish, whitish tone of light that allows plants to grow. This is also what we see up in the sky, which I think is why a lot of people believe angels are up among the clouds. Now, the Jinn, on the other hand, they are infrared light. There's something that is also invisible to the naked eye. But if we also use that same kind of understanding with like growing plants, if we used a high pressure sodium bulb that emits kind of like a reddish orange frequency, this is what we use to produce fruit on the plants. Now, the sun has all of this stuff, right? That's why trees and plants can grow all under the sun. But anybody that does any indoor growing knows the difference between a metal highlight bulb and a high pressure sodium bulb, being two different spectrums of light. So same kind of concept with the Jinn and the angels. They're on opposite sides of the spectrum. But the interesting thing with infrared light is it can penetrate deep into the earth. When it penetrates deep into the earth, I think this gives rise to believing why there's an underworld, or that the dead come from below and that the angels come from the sky above. So something to chew on for that. So there's going to be some things in this book that are going to be methods that, if you're serious about advancing yourself spiritually and doing this kind of work, it's going to produce results. There's a lot of things out there that could use some assistance and use some help. And we're really good at being this medium between the higher spiritual planes and the lower spiritual planes. With this physical body, we can do a lot of stuff with it. So with the Jinn, we heal them, we help them get back to where they need to go. So let's talk a little bit about that. Where do they need to go? Well, one big thing that a lot of people have issues with is when they come across trickster spirits, which is kind of what these are too, is they try and send them to the light, and they won't go to the light because that's not where they're from. Now, what I found is that we can send them to what we call their home dimension, right? But that's just another word. So one of the other words that I found works really, really well is we talk about this place called Doth. Doth is basically a hidden Sephirot on the Kabbalah, on the Tree of Life in Kabbalah. Now, the cool thing about Doth is it's also the doorway to knowledge, doorway to higher spiritual understanding. But from the Jinn perspective, a lot of these have been cast out to the abyss. We hear about fallen angels and stuff, right? Cast out into the abyss, staying in some sort of like a limbo, right? So Doth is a bridge that acts over the abyss from the lower dimensions to the higher dimensional stuff. That it's basically a bridge that goes over the abyss and allows them to go back to the higher spiritual planes. Okay, when we look at the Kabbalistic Tree of Life here, I'll pull this pattern up real quick. So here's a picture of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. If you were to put a human over this, right, their head would be right around this area, right up in here, right? The lower physical body and the sexual organs and stuff are going to be more down right around this area. So right here, Doth is the hidden Sephirot. This is going to be the bridge between the physical body and the higher mind. So it's pretty interesting that this is a bridge over the abyss, and that they seem to associate with being able to go to this place to find peace, okay, or go to a piece of rest, or back with their family, whatever you want to call it, right? All that looks pretty good. So this is now in stock again, back on my website, PendelMoffaMetrics.com. Dive in there. It's going to tell you a little bit about my personal story, how all this kind of came to be, the influences in my life that were here before that kind of led me down this path, right? So I wrote all of this out there because I really think there's a few of you out there that might be going through something similar and just don't have another person to talk to about it, okay? So if you like what you hear and you got any questions, feel free to post them down there. I will get to them as soon as I can. And answer everything as best to my ability. So with this work, I use the pendulum, right? So pendulum work is key with everything that's in this book. There's a lot of protocols in here that basically tell you exactly what you need to do, say what you need to say, and help you understand step by step process. So that way you're not going to fail. The hardest thing for me to do is take something really complex and turn it into like a very user friendly format that's going to make it easy for you to understand and easy for you to do and replicate. Okay. So I have this book. It's going to help people a lot, but let's talk about some of these tools that's going to help us. Okay. So one of my original designs is the pendulum is called the Auk. This one is made from a cool wood called MDF, and it's a black shiny wood that it looks beautiful, has a nice shine to it. But all these pendulums I'm about to show you are all blue frequency pendulums, and they're going to help with this work. Okay, I found that blue frequency works the best when it comes to working with the Jinn. And what I find interesting is when I showed you the picture of the Kabbalistic tree of life, Doth sits right over the throat, which I think has a lot to do with our voice and our vibration. But what's interesting is if you were to look at a chakra chart, what color is a throat chakra? It's blue. Blue is the same frequency that we want to use when we help heal the Jinn. So this is something that's going to be really, really helpful. Okay, so the Auk pendulum is a little bit smaller than my other ones, fits pretty well in your pocket, super lightweight, moves fast, and can really pack a punch. And the cool thing about blue frequency is it's also really good at working on yourself for any like worry and grief that's kind of throwing off any like thyroid issues in the throat and some of that kind of stuff. This can help balance it. Okay, the next blue pendulum that I came out with is something that I call the Anubis. This one works great, and I love the taper tip because it'll work well with charts too if you like using them. So the Anubis pendulum, Anubis is essentially the person that guides lost souls to the underworld. Okay, he's the one that when you pass away, he weighs your heart based on the scale of the feather, and we find out how pure your heart is or if it's been corrupted by the ego. And he's basically the one that is in service to people to help guide them on to the next stages of their spiritual evolution. And that's the ancient Egyptian god Anubis. Okay, this one is made out of olive wood. It's got a nice little wood grain to it. Very fast, very responsive, powerful pendulum. Lately, I've been working with this one a lot, and this is my most recent blue frequency pendulum called the Doth pendulum. Here we just talked about Doth earlier, right? So the whole thing is I try and name these things a certain way to help guide people to look into stuff. Okay, so when someone says, "What is Doth?" and they find out it's the doorway of knowledge. In Kabbalah is basically the root knowledge to all the world's great religions. And so there's a lot of stuff that's talked about in the Bible. There's a lot of stuff that's talked about in the Quran. There's stuff that's talked about in the Torah, Buddhism, Hinduism, a lot of this kind of stuff that's out there all has a lot of root knowledge. And so this is something that I've been reading into a lot and looking into a lot, other Gnostic studies and stuff, but Kabbalah seems to be something that really speaks to me. So we call this one Doth. This is a Doth pendulum. It's a little bit bigger shape. It does the exact same work. I've been working a lot with this one lately. It seems to really respond to the work that we're doing, and it'll definitely help you with everything we've just talked about. So for those of you guys that are drawn to this work, it's definitely something that's going to help you. Some people out there don't want to touch this stuff yet because they're afraid of opening up a doorway or bringing more of this into their life, and they're not ready to. This is all something that varies by person to person. But what I can tell you is if you do have earthbound spirits showing up at your house, or you always find yourself living in haunted environments or that kind of stuff, that doorway is probably already open and you look like somebody that can help. I'll get some people that say they don't want to do this work, but yet they'll take shamanism classes. They'll get Reiki attunements, and all this kind of stuff illuminates your being and really says, hey, you know what? I might be interested in helping out do this stuff. So what happens when we take that step forward? There's a response to it. So we may not get exactly what we want, but at the same time, we're going to get exactly what we need. Putting parameters on this kind of stuff is helpful, but when it comes down to how we interpret, this is what we really need to put our parameters on. Hey, if I got this coming around, this is what I want to feel. Hey, if I got this coming around, this is what I want to see. Saying, I want to see this, but not that. I want to deal with this, but only that. And putting parameters that way, it doesn't really work that way. And so it's kind of like when you get to hear stuff, see stuff, smell stuff, taste stuff, it's all kind of linked together. Intuition very much enhances all of this. And so if you practice what's in this book, and you start doing the breath work and doing spirit release therapy with the tools that are in this book, you are going to get results. And I don't mean that to scare you. I mean that to be serious, that you are going to get results. And it's very, very quick and it's very fluid. And so it gets to the point where when we start using life force, we start helping heal with the breath and we start channeling that to other things, it really enhances our energy bodies and it helps build our energy center. So all this does is just creates a higher vibration for us, right? And so we want to be able to use it in a productive way that's helpful, that's not going to hurt anybody, but at the same time, also assist us on our journey. Okay. So if we're getting these things showing up to our house, one of the biggest things that people need to understand is that they mirror something inside of us. Okay. And I know that the fear of abandonment and fear of being alone is something that a lot of people identify with, and a lot of people kind of like hold in their subconscious or just that overall thought, right? With the Jinn, a lot of them feel that way too. A lot of them feel forsaken. A lot of them feel abandoned. And a lot of them feel like they're alone. And so, what we want to do is be able to help them get back with their families. And they might not even remember what their family was like because it's been so long since they've been around. So, what we're here to do is just be that medium between the lower physical planes, spiritual planes, and the upper celestial spiritual planes. We're that medium in between that can do a lot of work with the angels and help this kind of stuff happen. So, if you don't want this kind of stuff to come around you, inner work. You got to do the inner work. It might be a negative belief. It might be some sort of a irrational way of thinking or a fear that might be there. Or frankly, it could be trauma in the subconscious. You can check out some of my other videos, how to locate traumas in the subconscious and work on that stuff. Doing breath, sending the opposite to it, forgiveness, gratitude. These are the kinds of things that are going to help us with all of this work. Okay. So as always, before you get started in this book, prayer of protection. If we're going to pull out a pendulum under the light of God, I ask for your protection. That's a simple, easy one that works for a lot of people. Put whatever words you want in with it and just ask that the highest truth come through the use of your pendulums, and that the highest or beings that reside in the highest of light be able to assist us in this work, because you will need that. So like I said, the Jinn book, this is going to give you step by step information on how to do this stuff. Take it as you want. Sometimes I talk too fast or people don't understand what I mean. So I have it all wrote down right here, and it'll be something that'll be really, really easy for you to work with. Now, when I work with spiritual stuff, electronic components, I have a hard time with. And so for me, putting it in a physical book, you don't need Wi-Fi for it. You don't need any kind of electronic connection to absorb the knowledge that's in this book. So currently I only have it in English right now. So if anybody out there speaks another language and wants to try and translate it into something else for me, contact me, nicksalzman@gmail.com. You can find me there, or you can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Facebook, Pendulum Optometrics. Look me up. I would love to be able to work with you guys if you know how to translate in any other languages, Spanish, German, Chinese, whatever. Let me know, because I would love to be able to put this information in other people's hands. Okay. So just wanted to come by today, talk to you guys a little bit about the Jinn book, some of the pendulums that'll work well, the Ak, the Anubis, and last but not least, the Doth. All of these are available on my website, pendulumoptometrics.com. Hope you guys enjoyed this short little live video and found it helpful. And if you guys got any good questions about this stuff, drop me a comment below, send me an email. I can help answer everything to the best of my ability. Until then, be well, much love. Have a good day, guys.